This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We've got playoff action in Major League Baseball going as we speak, as we welcome you into this Tuesday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network. Alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony, we're going to be holding it down for the next 2 hours. So much to get to. The Tigers up 1-0 on the Guardians right now in the bottom of the fourth inning. JVT, Tigers close around -170 favorites. Yeah. Guardians +141. Total in this one 6. And just one run scored to this point. Both pitchers playing pretty well.
Yeah, Gavin Williams getting squeezed a little bit, so he's not too happy about that. 4 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts. And Skubal, pretty similar stat line here. 3 innings, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, no earned runs for him either. Umpire is a little all over the place with the strike zone early. But the observation, and Adam Burke is going to be with us a little bit later. He and I were watching the book since it got started. Big observation is that Skubal's locked the bleep in. You know, a sub-1 ERA in his starts against Cleveland this year. He's really performed well in these matchups, despite the fact that his team as a whole, as we know, collapsed down the stretch. And that seems to be carrying forward here as we are in the bottom of the fourth inning. And we got an 0-2 count right now for Martinez. So we'll see if this continues. But Skubal seems to be very much locked the F in, as the kids would say.
I know you were on the Tigers for the series. Did you end up firing anything for game one?
No, there's no need. I mean, for me, the betting the series for the Tigers was a bet on game one. It was that Skubal was going to win this first game. Market, obviously, as you mentioned, moved in that direction. In a short series, when you have a guy at the top of your rotation like Tarek Skubal, you know, even in a spot like this, you could get 2 runs here and give him those 2, you're going to be good. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But in spirit, my bet on the Tigers to win the series was a bet on them to win game one.
Which makes sense. Again, the price on the series, -125, the price on game one around -170. And we talked yesterday about how those game one winners tend to come out on top throughout, 90% clip since 2020. But you mentioned Adam Burke is going to join us. That's a great setup for all that we have to come today on the program. Let's fire up the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
So Adam is going to join us in about 30 minutes. He'll be here for the second half hour of the program. Then later on in hour 2, MLB betting analyst and owner of Prop Queen Sports, Ariel Epstein, is going to join us as well, because in addition to the Tigers and Guardians action that's going on right now, we've got Padres Cubs beginning in about an hour, 2 more wild card series getting underway in the evening, Red Sox Yankees, Reds Dodgers. The series in LA, actually, where we've seen the most movement, JVT, Dodgers out from -173 favorites to higher than $2 now in game one.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that series. I mean, you could just, it's a short series, so we know that there's some variance there. If you just have one bad game, you don't know what's going to happen. You're getting a high-end pitcher at Hunter Green. You're getting a volatile bullpen in the Dodgers for the big favorite. It's just, there's a lot that could go wrong potentially for LA. So really excited for what this is going to bring to the table, and just excited for baseball. And we'll see what the elitist New Yorker Ariel believes is going to be the fate of her Yankees. We get this triumvirate of AL East teams on the right side of the bracket. Nothing worse could happen than one of those teams making it out of the AL.
We'll get her thoughts there.
I'll take Toronto.
Also, probably need to cut her some slack. She's a Ravens fan as well, and things have not been going great here to start the season. Speaking of which, we'll talk some NFL and college football with Adam Burke as well. And we do have front page news or back page news coming up in 15 minutes, some on-field and off-field news in the National Football League. How much should we be paying attention to certain things? What impacts us as bettors? And sometimes more importantly, what doesn't?
Yeah, there's a couple of bits of breaking news as well. We're getting some more clarity on Lamar Jackson, whether or not he's going to be available for this coming week. Spoiler alert, he's not. So it sounds like this is going to be, man, I told this to Mitch because we recorded Pod to the Future this morning. If you tell me the Ravens are going to get out of this next 2-game stretch, Houston and LA, 1-1, I'm down, but I need Lamar Jackson to be healthy, and it sounds like that won't be the case.
The Ravens are a 2.5-point dog hosting Houston coming up on Sunday. Total in that one, 40.5. So if you did want the under, that number has already shifted down. And we'll also play a little game of buy, rent, sell today as well, which can be fun. Which of these 4-0 or 3-1 teams in the NFL might be a team that's a little bit fugazi, maybe that we shouldn't believe in, or any bottom feeders we think could be better than their record right now. That'll be a fun conversation later.
I think you know which team that is 3-1 I would sell on.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Of course. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I think the game in Dublin looked a little more real. It'll be a good conversation. We'll get through it all. There are a handful that are interesting.
Huh? You're back.
I'm just hoping for wins. I've got the over 8.5 and them to make the playoffs. I need them to keep on this trajectory.
The eternal optimist. You just need that little spark.
What I'll say is, looking at the schedule that everyone was talking about being such a gauntlet, potentially not as difficult as we thought on the surface. We'll get to that.
The AFC North might suck, yeah.
A little bit later. But we do want to touch on what we saw last night in the NFL, of course, as well. The Monday Night Football doubleheader. Both of those home favorites end up coming through, winning and covering each of their respective numbers. Let's start with the Dolphins and Jets. Miami wins and covers the 3, 27-21 your final. Miami's 10th straight home win now over New York in their series. Jets fall to 0-4 on the young season. Total does go over that 44.5. And JVT, while the Dolphins did win the game, the biggest story coming out of it is losing Tyreek Hill. He left last night with a dislocated left knee, was taken to the hospital overnight, and then Adam Schefter reported early this morning he tore multiple ligaments in his knee, including the ACL, and is going to have season-ending surgery today.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Like when you have your action figures and, like you twist the legs all up and they look all weird. Like that was, gave me the heebie-jeebies yesterday. Look, you talk about buy low, sell high, Fugazi, all of these things. You want to talk about fool's gold. That game yesterday for the Miami Dolphins, outgained 404 to 300 on a yards per play basis, 7.1 to 5.4. If you look at the red zone attempts, obviously they took care of business when they got to the red zone. The Jets did not. They were 0 for 2 in that regard. Got called for 13 penalties and 101 yards and turned the ball over 3 times. And you lost only by 6. I can understand Aaron Glenn kind of made some headlines with calling the team out afterwards. That's 100% a winnable game against a divisional opponent, and you come out there and you crap the bed like that. That was unthinkable. Those who bet the Dolphins, good for you. You got there. But the fact that you even had to sweat out the teaser result if you were doing that with the plus 8.5 with the Jets, that was unthinkable looking at the way that game went down yesterday.
Well, and it started early, too, because they were able to do anything they wanted, running the football down Miami's throat on that first offensive drive for them. But then they fumble at the 1. Yep. Miami scores in response to that drive, and they're down 10-0 out of nowhere. Then midway through the second quarter, they get past midfield. Justin Fields takes the bad sack fumble, and then they open the second half doing the same thing. So it was over and over again. And I think Breece Hall spoke for everyone on the Jets when he said this after the game.
That's more important.
It's just a tale of, 3 out of our 4 losses. Teams will shoot ourselves in the foot, and we come back and shoot ourselves in the head. So you can't win if, defensively, if, or offensively, if we're not, converting on third down, if we're not getting us to third and manageables, we're in 2nd and 25, 2nd and 20, 1st and 15, getting stupid, dumb penalties and stuff. So that's been a frustrating thing.
Reiterating what you said there with the penalties, no discipline. They dropped to 0-4 now, 6-26 in division games the last 5 years. And I saw this crazy stat on X from Warren Sharp last night. Justin Fields has led his teams to an 0-25 record when the opponent has scored at least 21 points. That is not a club you want to be a part of.
No, but that's a little unfair in the context of this game, don't you think?
But I mean, it just still adds up to the whole concept.
Sure. I don't like the framing of that, in that putting this at Justin Fields' feet when he led an offense that averaged 7 yards per play and over 400 total yards. The point overall is taken. That's kind of tough. And look, I understand we do this with quarterbacks all the time. It's pretty much always their fault. That to me is a little tough to put this on Justin Fields, given what we saw from this team overall. Either way, the dynamic of this team going forward is going to be pretty interesting, because you have Aaron Glenn, who seems to be over the top is not the right term. It's a little pejorative, but I'll use it anyway. He's an over-the-top guy, very high when the highs are there, doing the dance on the sideline with the field goal block and everything like that. But then also here, when it gets low, you're talking about calling these guys out publicly in press conferences and whatnot. Yeah. I'm going to be interested to see how this works moving forward for this team, because, when you're 0-4 and you lose a game like that, and then you think about that story. Think about the games that they've been in here. This is a team that could be 3-1 if they take care of the things that they need to take care of. If they don't screw the game up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where their offense was great. If they can complete the comeback against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If they can get this done here statistically more often than not. If you simulate a game like that, you're winning it more often than not. So I think that there's probably enough to hold on to from a positive standpoint. Not much being said for the other team last night that we'll talk about. But for the Jets, I'll be curious to see how they spin this forward because we have at least seen signs of competence.
I do wish that they threw the ball more early. We talked so much about Miami's secondary and the issues that they have there. But, I mean, they were running the ball so well, I guess they didn't need to. But it took a lot for me to finally get my Garrett Wilson receiving yards prop at the end of the game. We did get there. The two-leg moneyline parlay came through with the favorites as well. And let's shift gears now to that other game that you mentioned. The Broncos win and cover any number, got out to as high as 8.5. 28-3 your final. Total does stay under the 44.5. Bo Nix entered the weekend as the worst passer, as you mentioned a number of times on Pro Football Focus.
Now he's the best.
But even he could take advantage of this Bengals defense. Man, it was brutal yesterday. Broncos outgained the Cincinnati Bengals by 353 total yards. It was the fourth largest yardage advantage on Monday Night Football history.
I mean, what is there to say? So when we did our market power ratings, and it's something I disagreed with, and it turns out that I think I was wrong here. This is a team that was worse than the Cleveland Browns by the market standpoint, the Cincinnati Bengals. Might have been right. And in fact, maybe they were ranked a little bit too high. I'm going to be curious to see how the market responds. We already see them as 10-point dogs at home to the Detroit Lions. But how low does this get for the Cincinnati Bengals? And you talk about not quitting, they're professionals, but you talk about a mental tax. Having Joe Burrow sidelined, getting your face kicked in consecutive weeks, having really no answer defensively. Guys like Jamar Chase having to play with Jake Browning. This seems like a situation that could blow up really quickly.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say this season feels over for the Bengals, even though they're 2-2.
And their division sucks.
Yeah. The last two games now, they've been outscored by 63 points. They had 159 total yards last night, and I saw Dan Graziano put it out there that there were 4 individual players this past weekend in the NFL that had more yards than the Bengals did as a team yesterday.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm distracted. We have a play at the plate.
Okay.
The Cleveland Guardians attempting on a chopper up the middle to tie this game. Tara Skubal had a throw, and they're trying to see if the call out was officially confirmed or not. It is overturned. It is a tie game.
Okay. Lots more to get to. We'll continue to keep tabs on that game throughout. We're just getting started here on Money Moves, though. Coming up next, front page news or back page news. If you thought there were a lot of blocked kicks so far in this young NFL season, you are correct. How many and why it could be important to note moving forward, and more next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Let's see which stories make the lines move and which stories deserve to be tossed out in front page news or back page news.
All right, let's get into it. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves. Front page news or back page news. One item I didn't get to yesterday, JVT, and call me crazy, that I wanted to make sure we brought up was some of these blocked field goal numbers. We have a blocked kick epidemic going on. Last season, there were 18 blocked field goals the entirety of the season with 1,115 different attempts, a 1.6% field goal block rate. We're already at 11 this year. So 18 all of last season. We've already seen 11, plus 3 blocked extra points and 4 blocked punts, many of which have been in huge game-deciding moments, a handful returned back for touchdowns. Front page news or back page news? And do we think this continues?
I would say that it's back page news, that maybe it's just a blip on the radar. It's just a thing statistically that, hey, we're just getting this rush of blocked kicks and nothing has changed. Unless you're telling me, because now I could be wrong here, so I'm willing to be wrong, that there hasn't been any change in terms of the way that these teams can line up, the way they can go after field goals, unless there's been some big thing in coaching circles that they've discovered the ability to block kicks at a higher rate. I would assume that this is just something that is happening at once, kind of like flipping a coin, 6 times in a row and hitting heads.
While the Lions haven't been involved in any of these moments yet, head coach Dan Campbell did have this to say about the growing trend. Take a listen.
Where I see him, man, you're like, oh my gosh, to lose that way, that's tough. But it's a reminder as to how important it is and how important special teams. And you battle your tail off for 3 hours, and that one time you didn't quite take the right step, or your pad level wasn't good, or you lunged, or you were too high, and the guy runs through and makes a block, and it's all for naught. And then you go back and you say, man, if I just would have been lower, if I would have locked in on that play, if I really would have treated it like, man, everybody's watching and we're going to lose this game if I don't block this guy. If you really treated it that way, then it wouldn't happen. So we're not going to let that happen here.
Please play that. Please play that back when they get a kick block.
He's using it as a lesson, though, early in the season. So maybe bet the no on the Lions this season.
Well, I was going to say, that's the other part is it actionable to an extent? Yeah. Probably not. I mean, again, it seems pretty random. I'd be curious. Let's mark this down, and let's, by the end of the year, go back to how far off we actually are of the number from last year. I'm willing to bet we probably fall within the line pretty closely.
Okay, the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0 after the win in Tampa on Sunday, a place that they had struggled the last few years. But it was a quiet day for A.J. Brown. After the game, he posted this very philosophical tweet, JVT said, "If you're not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene. Shrug your shoulders and be on your way." Had 2 catches on 9 targets, just 7 yards. But the headline here, Nick Sirianni says he doesn't question A.J. Brown's desire to play for the Eagles. Front page news or back page news?
Are we sure this wasn't from last year? Didn't this happen last year? And I think everything was fine.
So that's why I think this is back page news. Last year, he was literally sitting on a sideline reading a book.
Yeah.
You know, at least we didn't have that on Sunday.
Well, I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look at their schedule because there was a game in which there was a lot of noise around this team about whether or not he was happy and A.J. Brown and all that stuff. And then they had like a A.J. Brown coming out party. We had like 9 targets and they made him happy. Yeah. They blew out their opponent. Everything was fine. So I would venture to guess that A.J. Brown, I think, is a little dramatic, and I think everything's going to be fine.
I would say, though, it could be worthwhile when the props become available to take a look because, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease type of thing, and usually when he has been upset, he's been fed.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like, that's what happened last year, so maybe that is one of those where
like
it's
in
just
the immediacy of it?
Yeah, here's an opening drive touchdown play, like, geared toward you. Now shut the hell up. Can we continue
Okay, so let's target first touchdowns, A.J. Brown, over yards, over receptions, something like that. We'll find an angle come Sunday.
I will say it's worth pointing out just for the Eagles in general. Mitch and I were talking about this on the pod to the futures. This team is this year's Kansas City Chiefs, it would look like. Offensively, kind of middling, right. But then they just find a way to get these things done. All 4 of their victories have come by a single score so far, and here they are, undefeated. They seem very much like the Chiefs from last year. Now, that's not really a terrible thing because the Chiefs made it to the Super Bowl. But at this point right now, they are a team that is kind of living on smoke and mirrors, Band-Aids and bubblegum, and we'll see if that continues to work for them.
Is this the Chiefs from last year, or are they the Eagles from 2 years ago? And that's a conversation I would like to have a little bit later in Buy, Rent, Sell. I think is interesting.
Are you talking about the team that lost out like the last four games or whatever it was? And then ended up losing to Tampa Bay in the
Correct.
Postseason?
That is the one. So we'll get to that a little bit later. How about the Tennessee Titans, though? So from 4-0 to 0-4, had an ugly performance against the Houston Texans on Sunday. Here's their rookie number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, on the podium after the loss.
Everything from interception to a penalty to an incompletion by me, a bad ball. And then once we passed the 50, we're just not continuing the drive. We keeping the buck right now. We 0-4. We have this one. We got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our games, and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in, especially myself on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams to all 3 faces. We have to play together. We have not played together this year yet, and that's just something that we want to preach about it every day. Every day we got to do better, and we're doing that, but it has to show up on Sundays. It hasn't showed up yet, but it got to show up next week.
All right, is Cam Ward's blunt assessment front page news or back page news?
I mean, I would say it's, I guess, to an extent, front page news in that this team is now at the bottom of its power rating for the season. I would guess that after this week, when we do our market power ratings on Friday, that they're going to be the lowest power rated team in the National Football League. They're already heading down in that direction. They are also themselves. What's the number for them this week?
8.5.
They're catching 8.5 in this spot this week. I would say, give me Tennessee, absolutely. So this is probably the buy low point. So I think it's probably front page news in that. Look at the opponents that he has faced up to this point. We've discussed this quite a bit. It's been covered on the network. He has faced some of the best defenses that he's going to have to face in the NFL through these first 4 weeks of the season. This is about to get a lot lighter against Arizona. And if not now, when is there going to be a time where we might see the best version of it? This might be it. Now, the caveat I would say is that, remember, I thought this about the Indianapolis game, and they still looked pretty bad on offense there. And that Indianapolis Colts secondary showed its warts against the Rams. So you're a little worried. I think that this is probably the bottom and that we're going to see a buy spot here this weekend. So maybe that's front page news because of that.
And this is what I was waiting for.
Yeah.
Because I do believe in Cam Ward. I do. I've said that from the offseason. And it has been a gauntlet of tough defenses for him to start the season. As you said, this 8.5, this surprised me. ESPN Stats and Information said that this is Arizona's biggest favorites role since 2011. 2021.
Okay.
That surprised me,
that's
though.
a long time.
No, but the last 4 years
Sure.
that they haven't been an 8.5-point favorite?
And it's not like they've blown you away in the early course of the year. Kyler Murray, as we have discussed, like the average of the target, the just lacking any sort of verve offense that doesn't have any explosiveness to it, all of these things. This has not looked like a team that has been worth backing. It's a tough number to lay here if you're talking about the Cardinals, even with a team like the Titans.
That said, probably still a tough number to take when you look at the number we've been touting a bunch with Brian Callahan, 3-18 against the spread since he has been named the head coach. Okay, how about this one
4-18 after this
for
week.
front page news or back page news? That the Cleveland Browns are still trotting Joe Flacco out there as their starting quarterback. He's got 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 7 total turnovers, second most in the NFL. His 58.1% completions are 32nd of 33 qualifying quarterbacks. As a team, you're 1-3, and even the lone win that you had needed to overcome a double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter and lucked out to be there by no thanks to you, Joe Flacco. So, do you think we're at the point where we should be seeing one of these young quarterbacks and see what the Browns ultimately have with the 2 guys they drafted?
I think what's going to be interesting about Flacco is, so I thought Clev TA, who comes on with you all the time, had a great Twitter thread about this, where he posted like the thing about Flacco. He's getting pressured, the 6th highest pressure rate in the NFL, but he's also got the 8th longest time to throw, and he's actually getting some decent protection in that. Like, he is kind of responsible for some of these pressures overall. But the other part of that's not really, and again, that's why you can use data to any point you want. What we're not seeing is the separation rate from some of his receivers. Maybe these guys just aren't getting open. Tillman now goes down with an injury, so that's going to be something. That had been a guy that had been highly targeted for him in the wide receiver room. So now all of a sudden, if your guys aren't getting separation, and your offensive line's like middling average, whatever it is, what is a rookie quarterback going to do to improve that situation? So I know we're doing a lot of putting it on Flacco's feet, just like we do with all of these quarterbacks we just talked about the Fields, and I'm not the biggest Flacco guy at all. Maybe this offense as a whole just stinks.
But even if which is entirely possible,
right.
But still, like having those guys in the room, don't you want to utilize this season just to see what you have in the room to begin with?
Sure. I mean, the question just becomes like when
At what point?
Yeah, when are we going to do it? What does it really matter? Jackson Dart, I know, just happened to be ready the second that Russell Wilson started to stink, but I think it's really just at some point we know we're going to see Dylan Gabriel. Maybe we see Shedeur Sanders. The question is just when, and just try to trot Joe Flacco out there and tell your veterans we're trying our best to win some of these games.
Last one on the way out. During the offseason, the Raiders coaching staff tried to change Ashton Genty's stance, but he's back to like that Halloween stand-up thing, front page news or back page news. Had his best game.
I was going to say, coming off of that, right? It's a big difference. I would assume that the front page news, though, is that Colton Miller has an ankle sprain and might be missing some time.
Valid point. Okay, we got to step aside. When we come back, diving into the MLB postseason with VSiN's own Adam Burke in studio. He'll join us for the next half hour, and we are tied at 1 between the Tigers and Guardians in the bottom of the 5th. That first wild card action underway, but a lot more that we need to preview with him and beyond. Stay with us right here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're locked and loaded on this Tuesday edition of Money Moves. And did you know right now our football season special rolls on where you can save 40% off when you use our code MONEY. You get VSiN Pro access to everything we do across every sport from now through the Super Bowl. That means daily best bets plus a leaderboard from all of our top experts, real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits updated every 5 minutes, proven betting systems, and pro tools at VSiN.com. You can also get the 24/7 video replays, live breakdowns on the VSiN Watch app, and so much more. Don't wait. Lock in your 40% off today with our promo code MONEY at VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. And I know it's our football season special, but right right now, as the MLB postseason rolls on, we've got one game in action tied at 1 between the Tigers and Guardians. We have a ton of stuff in our MLB postseason hub. Dave Tooley, wildcard previews and best bets. Greg Peterson plays. Really? Steve Mackin in betting systems and trends. And VSiN Managing Editor Adam Burke has articles with his thoughts on predictions on everything as well. And he joins us now in studio. What's going on, Adam?
Just trying to keep myself composed, not use any expletives during the two segments here with my Guardians on right now. And I got the Cleveland versus the world shirt on.
I'm here for it.
It's a good shirt.
Listen, we're on Sirius XM. You can use whatever you want, right?
We also have a bunch of terrestrial radio stations around the country, So just keep it to like ass, like that's it.
That's like JVT says that a lot, and I'm always like, whoa.
So you guys were able to use Cam Ward's quote unfiltered?
Yeah, they bleeped that out. I don't know why you bleeped out the A part. I don't want to say it over and over again because that's when you really get to it. But yes, you can use that.
Are our bleeps a little bit more loud than most? Have you noticed that? I feel like our bleeps are very, very.
No, we're going to get into the production conversation. I'm more of a fan of just cutting the audio instead of putting the bleep in, but that's neither here nor there.
I just let it go.
I agree.
All the kids are saying it.
No, the kids have never heard bad words before.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right, let me ask you something.
Are you telling me your 7-year-old doesn't say any swear words at all?
I plead the fifth. So let me ask you a question. We're watching your teams right here, your team, Detroit and Cleveland. We're at the top of the 6th inning. Gavin Williams pitched well, and our guy, Tarek Skubal, has pitched well. From an in-game standpoint, at what point do these guys leave? Because there is a clear statistical advantage between the bullpens. Cleveland has that. If this is tied after that, are you jumping on Cleveland in-game if we start to get to the bullpens here? How is this looking right now?
It's a really, really good question, especially because, much to my chagrin, I am on the Tigers series price here, expecting that they would win this game with Tarek Skubal, and it kind of looked that way. I mean, Gavin Williams gave up the first inning run, and he's looked phenomenal ever since. Knock on wood. I'm sure there's wood. Maybe this is made out of wood.
Wood underneath it.
As far as live betting this game goes, in theory, right, you would think that the Guardians do have the advantage here from a bullpen standpoint, especially with having the off day yesterday. They didn't really have to use anybody, which is really important because those guys have been worked a ton throughout the course of the second half of the season here. So I might, especially, again, like I said, as a little bit of insurance, a little bit of protection on that Tigers series price.
Mm-hmm.
When we had you on the program last week, we were talking about, can the Guardians really do this? Are they going to come all the way back? They did. Were you surprised at all that they were able to complete the job and win the division like that?
Oh, absolutely. Cleveland, 35 years, born and raised until I lived out here in Vegas. I've seen it all, and most of it's been bad. So I just kind of assumed that, this wasn't going to happen. The one thing that I kind of regret is that because Cleveland lost the game on Thursday night, Detroit was allowed to skip Skubal on Sunday. Yeah. If Cleveland would have won that game, Detroit probably would have had to use Skubal on Sunday, which really would have magnified the advantage of winning the division. And, being in advance at least, they weren't able to do that. But, it was – honestly, this is a really bad offensive team. A really, truly bad offensive team outside of Jose Ramirez. And Detroit's probably just going to pitch around him in this series. So – I was very surprised because it's a lot of the same guys that they had when they were, 15, 11, 10, 9 games out.
Well, you pointed out in your article, too. These are two bad offensive teams for the most part. So are these games just going to resemble in this series what we're seeing here today? We're talking 1-1, top of the 6th inning. Is this just what we're going to look like in this series?
I think there's a possibility. Tanner Bybee tomorrow is going to be really interesting for Cleveland because he's a guy that in big games he can nibble a little bit. He has some problems with the walk rate. A little bit more prone to giving up home runs than Gavin Williams is. And because all of these games are during the day, it is starting to cool off in Cleveland. This ballpark typically starts to play a lot bigger at this time of the year. But because these are day games, ball might carry a little bit more. We'll see what the wind looks like tomorrow. The wind is blowing in a little bit off the lake here today, so that's knocking some fly balls down. Casey Mize going tomorrow, not as much of a swing and miss guy by any means as Tarek Skubal. The Guardians can use a lot of lefties against him, which typically works against sinker splitter guys. So we'll see, but I would certainly expect both of these teams to struggle to score runs because the run environment in the Major League Baseball playoffs is largely predicated on power, right? You're not going to manufacture a bunch of innings, string together a bunch of hits, stuff like that. You're going to hit one mistake out of the ballpark and somebody's going to maybe be on base or not. Neither one of these teams hit for much power. So I would assume that this series probably does remain low scoring.
I don't know if you just watched the at-bat, but Spencer Torkelson just got 3 pitches, swung at all 3, missed at all 3, and he's out. So we are heading to the bottom of the 6th inning.
And I did notice, you talk about live and all the things that are going on here. assuming that Gavin Williams can kind of keep going here and assuming that things stay where they are, like the Guardians have shifted to a -135 favorite for the series now because Skubal maybe starting to reach the end of his appearance, although I wouldn't take him out until his arm falls off in this game if I'm Detroit. But, just kind of talking about the live nature of these things, like to this point, through 6 innings, Gavin Williams has canceled out Tarek Skubal.
Mm-hmm.
So, these series prices are always in constant motion. That's something to keep an eye on as
they
well.
have nearly identical stat lines.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Both pitchers now with 8 strikeouts. Gavin Williams, 1 walk, Skubal 2. Williams 4 hits allowed, Skubal 3, 1 run allowed each. Like that's where we're at right now. The pre-flop total in this game was 6, live sitting 4.5 right now. And we do have the next game of the day set to get underway in just about 30 minutes. The Cubs and Matthew Boyd, -131 favorites, hosting the Padres and Nick Pivetta. Run total in that one low as well at 6.5.
Yeah, and I mean, part of this, too, is also that the wind is blowing in a little bit at Wrigley Field, and that's something you want to pay attention to in this series because, like I said, it is starting to cool off a little bit in the Midwest. In the summertime, Wrigley Field is a launching pad, especially if the wind is blowing out. When the wind is blowing in, it is very much reflected in the total, and that's what we're seeing here in this game today with Pivetta and Boyd. Pivetta, no surprise, was better at home than he was on the road. Petco Park is a pitcher's haven. There's nothing remotely shocking about that. I didn't play anything here for today's game, but what I did do is I took the Cubs series price at -125, and it's exactly the reason, that I just talked about, right? The Major League Baseball playoffs are, your run-scoring environment is hitting for power. Like, it's pretty much that simple. And Chicago has multiple guys that can hit for power, whereas San Diego really doesn't. And even if you look at and consider the fact that Petco Park does suppress power, they didn't have any higher of a slugging percentage really on the road. I think it was like 9 or 10 points higher on the road than it was at home. So it's not like they hit for power even getting out of that environment. So I think Chicago has the advantage here in this series because of their ability to hit for power. But they're going to have to do it early in the game because San Diego's bullpen is full of hard throwers that miss bats. I was surprised, though, that the Cubs' bullpen is actually as close to San Diego's as it is from a statistical standpoint. So that's something that shocked me a little bit and also kind of put me over on taking the Cubs for the series.
I'm curious for San Diego, big picture, let's say they win and move on. How much more will this rotation be exposed in a longer series?
Yeah, that's a really, really excellent question here because, you get Pivetta in game 1, and Pivetta's a guy, having a career year. He is a guy that, because he's around the plate a lot, can give up some home runs. And if he does make some starts on the road, that's certainly concerning. I mean, Darvish, I really don't know what, if anything, you're going to get out of him in the postseason. Michael King just came back from injury. Dylan Cease is a guy who either has a walk problem or a command problem, and a lot of his starts. That's a really, really excellent point. And so, I think that because there's so much name value in the lineup for the Padres, people kind of overrate what they actually are. The bullpen is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. That's going to help them in the postseason, especially in this kind of environment. But I just don't know how good the Padres actually are. And I think the starting rotation is an excellent point to make.
Anything in the night games that caught your eye?
Yeah, I got a couple of things in the night games. So, look, I think the Yankees ultimately do end up winning the series here. But I will say that
foul ball. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Adam got distracted because
the damn camera's in my way.
It's a foul ball. Foul ball.
So I did take Boston tonight. I do think the Yankees ultimately end up winning the series. I think their pitching depth over the 3 games is just more than what Boston has to offer, especially being able to run Carlos Rodon out there tomorrow. But today, I think with Garrett Crochet and Max Fried was terrific in September, kind of struggled his way through July and August. But I think this game is closer to a toss-up than what this line indicates. Crochet is really, really good. Yeah. A guy that misses a lot of bats, won't, put himself in danger with walks, anything like that. And Fried, the strikeout rate is up this year, but he's by and large a pitch-to-contact type of guy, sinker ball, ground ball type of guy. I think Boston is live in this game, and potentially for the series too, because the other thing I think is important, like I said, the offensive run environment is based on home runs. Boston was the best bullpen in baseball in terms of home run suppression this season. So I think that's something that could be an advantage for them in this series.
And remember, everybody, if you are looking for transparency with your bets, now is a better time than ever to get involved and check out Juice Reel, the trusted marketplace for buying and selling picks. And here's how it works on the Juice Reel app. Every seller syncs their sportsbook account so their full betting history is imported directly from the book. So no screenshots, no fake records. You get verified bettors with real results. Download Juice Reel today. That's juice like orange juice. Reel, REEL. BEL Juice Reel. Download it today and get on board. And I've got a couple more MLB questions for you when we come back. Again, tied at 1 right now in Game 1 of the wild card between the Tigers and Guardians. More Money Moves after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Still tied at 1. Guardians Tigers head-to-head as our wild card series are officially underway. Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel, Adam Burke also on the desk with us here as we continue to dive into all things MLB. And one series we didn't get to is in the nightcap coming up later on tonight. The Los Angeles Dodgers begin their World Series title defense against the Reds, and they have been bet out here in this first game today from around minus 173 favorites to more than $2. Most shops I'm seeing, I'm looking at our VSiN.com betting splits on DraftKings, and 84% of the bets, 70% of the handle on the Dodgers this evening.
Yeah, not really a big surprise. I mean, I talked about it already with Cleveland and Detroit. These are two subpar offenses, to put it nicely. The Reds are not a good offense either. And this is even a team that, they have a really, really good park factor at home. So they should be a lot more productive playing games in Cincinnati than they were throughout the course of the season. They're not a good road offense either. And I think Blake Snell's going to shut them down. So I think it makes complete sense that we're seeing this line run out a little bit. I know there's a lot of love out there for Hunter Green, throws incredibly hard. The Dodgers, as you would expect with the types of guys that they have in their lineup, they're very good against what I consider, very good to elite velocity, 97-plus miles per hour. They're a top 5 offense in batting average, slugging percentage, and weighted on base average. And Hunter Green effectively throws 2 pitches. He pretty much throws fastball, slider. You can kind of guess a little bit if you're the Dodgers, especially with the way that, guys really focus, really prepare for these playoff series. So I think the Dodgers win this game tonight. I think this is a short series in all likelihood. But what I did for this one is I took the Dodgers at 5-1 to win the World Series. You look at this now, like Tyler Glasnow is available out of the bullpen in this series. Roki Sasaki's in the bullpen. Emmett Sheehan, who was terrific in 73 1/3 at the MLB level, he's probably going to be in the bullpen or maybe be a 4th starter. They can piggyback this. They can run out basically anybody who they want to throughout the course of the postseason here. Add in Zach Wheeler being gone for the Phillies. Add in some concerns that I have about the Brewers. And I just think that the Dodgers are the best team, and I think they're better than any of the AL teams too.
A little bit of danger here for your boys. Leadoff double for Riley Green, and then it looked like a tough play at first that doesn't get there. So we have runners on the corners with no outs for the Detroit Tigers. So is that more pro-Dodgers, that thought process, than anti-Brewers? Because I really like this Brewers team a lot. I find it hard to really look to play against them, considering the way that they went throughout the season. They seem not flawless, but a very, very sound team.
Yeah, and this is one of the issues with Cleveland, by the way. Their first base defense is really concerning.
Did his foot slip off the bag?
Bad. Giankenzie Noel's not great over there. He hasn't really played there a whole lot.
His foot slipped off the bag.
And this is an important thing, too, right? The Dodgers are a very good defensive team. So this is something worth keeping in mind as you go throughout the playoffs here where, again, the run environment is so depressed that you've got to make plays. You've got to convert outs in the field on batted balls. So, this is one where I do really look a lot at fielding and look a lot at defense, which – to your point, Milwaukee is excellent at those things. They're a great defensive team. They're a very, very good base running team. They don't strike out a lot. There's a lot of things to like about Milwaukee, but they're kind of built more for 162 than they are for this little playoff sprint, in my opinion.
The Phillies are your favorite to win the World Series right now, plus 425, followed by the Seattle Mariners, plus 450. The aforementioned Dodgers, 5-1, Blue Jays, and Brewers at plus 750. Have you made any additional bets on the World Series, or you think there are some to be made right now, or even in the awards markets for when it comes to MVP when all is said and done? Because I think that's an interesting market too, because it's not necessarily the big star that wins World Series MVP. It's just somebody who comes out. So any thoughts there?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, outside of Dodgers 5-1, and I got a little bit better than that, plus 550, but that's where they were at DraftKings this morning. So, I want to give a number that's, widely available to a lot of people. In terms of betting the MVP market, no, not really something that I necessarily look at, because not only do you have to figure out the player, but you also have to figure out the teams that are going to be there. And because the baseball playoffs are typically pretty high variance, or at least they have the opportunity to be very volatile, to me it was something where, I'm not going to play anything into the MVP markets until maybe I actually know, what the series is going to be. I think you could kind of make a case for the Mariners in the American League. when you look at Toronto, and I realize the Mariners are the short shot, even though Toronto is the number 1 seed. When you look at Toronto, they were not a good road team. And they were significantly better at home in terms of run scoring. They had a series in Colorado where they scored 45 runs in 3 games. That made their run differential on the road look a lot better. Their runs scored per game on the road look a lot better. I think there's some smoke and mirrors attached to this Toronto team. So I do kind of like Seattle, coming out of the American League, but at plus 450, there's just not enough value on that World Series price for me.
That's what JVT likes to hear, though.
No, Seattle. I think they're look, they worry me just because, maybe you buy into this. I don't think you do. Does the whole experience thing really even matter at this point? It is a relatively new group to this postseason where you have a lot of guys who haven't really done much in this setting.
Right. Yeah, no, to me, experience is just, to me, I don't think it's really much of anything. If you're good, you're good. And also, there's going to be a lot of swings and misses. There's going to be a lot of strikeouts in the playoffs. So, the notion of clutch, I think is, a lot of randomness to it.
VSiN.com Managing Editor Adam Burke joining us here in studio on Money Moves. Let's get into a little college football here because going through the website this morning, there's a ton of college football content available each and every week. I saw Zach Cohen's got his Week 5 winners and losers, pushing it forward to this week. Tyler Shoemaker has his Week 6 T-Shoe Index. You've got 2 articles up right now on the college football line moves and your updated power ratings, which, by the way, I see that the Oregon Ducks are now the number 1. The Ohio State Buckeyes might be the number 1 team in the country in the AP poll, but for you, Oregon is your top power-rated team. Why there? And also just any other big movers in your power ratings this week?
Yeah, I was really impressed with Oregon. I realized that if James Franklin goes to 2, like he should have, on that potential game-tying touchdown there at the end of regulation, maybe Oregon does lose that game. But, they completely, changed their defensive mindset. They gave up 300 rushing yards in that Big Ten championship game. They did not do that in this game here, and they really harassed Drew Aller, who was terrible throughout the course of that game. Very impressed with Oregon. They aced their first really big test, so I did feel it was warranted to move them ahead of Ohio State, who, look, the defense is incredible. There's no doubt about that. But I did worry about how conservative they were with Ryan Day and Brian Hartline calling the plays there. Didn't really let Julian Sand stretch the field a lot of running the football. So I just thought that it made sense to put Oregon ahead of Ohio State. Also, another thing I just posted is the Sam Houston State, New Mexico State game coming up on Thursday night. I'm writing all the weeknight previews over at VSiN.com, so I put that one up here for those who are interested in that Conference USA barn burner on Thursday night. Run is driven in there, courtesy of a bunt, so 2-1. Detroit up on top. Guards ball from the Tigers. Yep. A little small ball. It's hoisted by your own petard, if you will. All right, let me ask you, we should make a trend. We should make this a normal thing. You mentioned the barn burner on the weekdays. Let's mention the real barn burner that Stormy will be on the sidelines for. Cal taking on Duke. It's a good game. I'm not doing this just because you're here. It's a good game. But I'm curious, what do you make the number? Because I tried to make this case to her the other day, which was I find myself leaning actually a little bit more toward Duke. I just watched Cal go off as a 1.5-point dog at home to Minnesota, and now it's just 2.5 against a Duke team that I personally feel is much better. But what do you make this number? Yeah, I have 1.5 for the number in this one. So, but look, I've also been pretty high on Cal, and I was very high on Cal, well above the market for Cal's game against San Diego State a couple of weeks ago, where they got shut out 34-0. So, I did make an adjustment to the Golden Bears at that point in time. Maybe I haven't adjusted enough. We'll have to wait and see. But, one thing that is really interesting, and, we'll have to watch this in conferences like the ACC and the Big Ten. We saw a lot of line movements against teams with the long travel last year. We're seeing it this year, too, where, teams going west to east and teams going east to west are not really getting a whole lot of love. Think about Ohio State last week, where that line kind of opened in the 12.5 range, came down to single digits. Buckeyes covered anyway. So that's something I'm kind of curious to see if we get that here in this game, if we see a little bit of love on the Cal side with this long trip for Duke, and maybe some questions about Malik Murphy and, how this team's going to play going forward. Will he take care of the football? That's, kind of a big thing with him. So I made it 1.5. I don't think I'm going to play the game, but it is really interesting to look at these cross-country matchups for sure. Gary Mensah now, but yes, with the trips. Oh, Gary Mensah, that's right. Yes, thank you. Well, Malik Murphy did get to face Cal. Yeah, and he does have trouble turning over the football still. Yes, he does. But yeah, with Mensah, they paid a lot of money to get him over there. The cross-country travel thing is interesting, though, because
because Minnesota had to do that when they faced Cal, and I know that was something when they struggled with it.
Cal just had to do it too.
Cal did it, which kudos to them, by the way, for finally winning a one-score game. That was a huge issue for them a year ago. But with Duke, I was going through their schedule. The farthest they went west last year was to SMU, and they did lose that game in a really close game. This year, the farthest they've gone was, I mean, not west, but farthest travel they've had at all was Tulane, and they lost that game as well. So I do wonder if there's anything to that because they hadn't had to go through 3 time zones in more than a year.
That'd be funny if they're just like, man, this trip to Tulane is too much for us. We can't handle this.
Well, that was a tough, I mean, for Mensa, too, to lose that game. Yep. Jake Retzlaff to show out the way that he did that day was significant. Reminder, by the way, as we talk about all of this stuff with Adam, he is in charge of everything over at VSiN.com, and there's so much content each and every day. All of these articles that we mentioned across all sports, but also the betting splits I mentioned, available right now, VSiN.com/subscribe. You can get in there for as little as $9.99 your first month, get access to all of it. We know you love the bets. We got best bets and picks on the website each and every day as well. We're going to step aside. More Money Moves after this.